When you tell me that your new game is a cross between Hotline Miami and football, I have to admit that you have my full, undivided attention. I mean, what does that mashup even mean? Is it an acid-fueled sports simulator starring a psychopath killer? Or is it an action game with a weird sports theme? As it turns out, Tackle for Loss is the latter. A Hotline Miami clone starring a football player with a whole bunch of sports-related upgrades and abilities. It's the kind of mashup that really shouldn't work. Yet, with its twisted story and fast-paced gameplay, it kinda does. Yeah, we have a whole lot to talk about when I review Tackle for Loss by Indifferent Penguin. Where do I even begin with this game? If we boil it down to a simple setup, then this is the story of a football player who's on a mission to find his missing daughter, Sarah. To get her back, he goes on a series of increasingly chaotic missions that allow him to use football skills to murder a bunch of gangsters and ninjas and assassins. In other words, it's exactly like Hotline Miami, only now with a fun sports theme and a hero who wears a helmet instead of an animal mask. The similarity is also in its dark and excessively violent story, which sends the athlete down a path full of bad memories. We quickly realize that there's a whole lot more going on than a simple father searching for his missing daughter, and perhaps our hero isn't as well-meaning as he thinks he is. The stages are all based on these memories, sending him on an hallucinatory revenge mission where nothing is what it appears and nobody can be trusted. Now, just like Hotline Miami, the goal here is to rush into the level and murder everybody before they kill you. This, of course, is made a lot harder because it only takes a single bullet shot or a dog bite to take out our hero, so you're gonna need to get them before they get you. But because this is football themed, you only have 4 downs to eliminate everybody in a single level. At first that means that you can only rush at the enemies a total of 4 times. However, you'll quickly earn an upgrade that'll add a playing meter, allowing you to link kills together into one big combo before the time runs out. In other words, you're going to want to kill 3 or maybe 4 people in a single play. That way you still have 3 downs to work with. If you end up running out of turns before you take out all the bad guys, then it's game over and you're just going to have to try that level all over again. Although a bit arbitrary, this limitation does make Tackle for Loss feel a bit more like a puzzle game. A lot of your time is going to be used finding the exact right time to attack multiple people before your combo expires. It's easy early on when there are only a few guards in tight spaces, but the locations will obviously open up and add a lot more enemies to deal with. There really are a lot of times where it feels like only having 4 plays won't be enough to kill everybody in the level. Thankfully, you'll be able to buy upgrades and abilities along the way, most of which are taken straight out of a football game. For example, you'll be able to throw a football to distract the guards, or tackle the enemies in an especially brutal way. You'll juke, stiff arm, and hurdle to mix up the action and gain the advantage on the opponents. This not only helps to add some much needed depth to the gameplay, but it also reinforces the football theme. My issue with these moves and upgrades is that there's very little incentive to actually use them. Take that decoy football for example. In theory, you can toss the ball in one direction to move the enemies around the stage, but you're also penalized for doing that since it costs a play just to throw the decoy. Unfortunately, the same is true for all the other abilities, both defensive and offensive in nature. I found that I was just better off memorizing the different enemy attack styles and waiting for the right opening to strike. Aside from using the run move and the ability to temporarily pause the combo timer, I found that I barely used the new moves that I worked so hard to unlock. And that's kind of a shame. We also need to talk about the level designs. While I like that we get to bust heads across a wide variety of locations, I found some of the stage designs to be a bit samey. And I mean that in the sense that many of the individual stages are indistinguishable from the stage that came before it, and unfortunately the stage that'll come right after it. It's not just the layout of the levels, but it's also where the enemies are placed. This ultimately feels like filler, where the developer worried that the game would be too short if you only had to complete each stage once, so let's just add a few more carbon copies to fill out that runtime. It really would have been better if each mission had 4 or 5 unique stages to complete and not just the same one over and over. The other problem is a bit more obvious. This game is incredibly derivative of Hotline Miami. In fact, I have no problem straight up calling it a clone. Sure, there are some fun sports-themed upgrades and changes to the gameplay, but you're never going to be able to shake that feeling that you've done and seen this all before. Even the story and the character's descent into madness is both predictable and familiar. This is a game that is desperately in need of its own identity. Still, even with these issues, I can't deny that Tackle for Loss is a lot of fun. Yeah, it's probably because this style of action game is inherently tense and exciting, but I'd like to believe that developer Indifferent Penguin has done a good job of recreating what makes those other games work. It's not especially original, and the football theme feels more like a tacked-on gimmick than a real shift for the genre, but at the same time, it never fumbles what's important. CTE is the last thing you're going to need to worry about in Tackle for Loss, a fun new action game that combines elements from Hotline Miami and football. While that mashup may leave you scratching your shiny new helmet, the end result is a surprisingly intense brawler with a twisted story and cool sports-themed upgrades and abilities. Sure, it's a Hotline Miami clone, and some of the level designs are a bit repetitive, but I have a hunch that you're going to have a good time getting Tackle for Loss to the end zone. Just don't expect this game to be a blowout. Hey, thanks for watching my review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite video game sport? I'm not talking about a sports game, but rather the sport that is best represented by video games. Is it tennis? Is it baseball or racing? Maybe it's some made-up video game sport. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we're going to wrap up the week with a brand new episode of Review Crew. Probably. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.